Hey everyone, I'm Thor Draper Jr., and welcome to The Cyber Journey. As someone who transitioned into cybersecurity from a different field, I understand the challenges and the excitement that come with this journey. Today, we're going to be diving into two fantastic questions from Reddit, and we're going to explore whether you can break into cybersecurity with just a certificate and how to build a clear roadmap for a career in cloud security. So let's get started. Our first question comes from our security career advice from user shortmarketing7875, and they ask, is it possible to break into cybersecurity with the certificate? I'm currently enrolled in the Google Cybersecurity Professional Cert plan, and I plan on taking the Security Plus. Will this be enough to get me an entry-level analyst position? First off, great question. The short answer is yes, it's possible to break into cybersecurity with a certificate, but let's dive into some of the details. Certifications like the Google Cybersecurity Professional Cert and the CompTIA Security Plus are excellent starting points. They provide you foundational knowledge and demonstrate your commitment to the field. But what I like to say about certifications is the only thing they really certify you is that you're able to pass that certification, which is a phenomenal start opposed to others. But keep in mind, a SOC analyst position is a common entry-level role, and it can really help you get your foot in the door for the rest of the cybersecurity domains. But that's not the only path. There's a lot of competition for these entry-level roles. It's not that you're just competing with the fresh graduates or people who just finished a cybersecurity boot camp. Keep in mind that you're also competing with some of the people in the IT community space itself. So one thing that you want to figure out is if you're going to dictate what success looks like, you might limit or extend the amount of time it takes for you to finally achieve what that success is. So if you're only looking for a role that has the word security in the title, then you might find it a bit challenging. I'd probably suggest that you keep your mind open to doing something maybe in the MSP space. That was my personal career path, and I went from being in sales, doing a little dabbling in entrepreneurship, and then I made the career shift into IT at the beginning of 2020, which kind of was a perfect timing because the whole world went remote, and it went remote very, very quickly. So if you fast forward a little bit from MSPs, I bounced from one to a mid-sized MSP to a contract at Microsoft where I eventually went full-time as an Azure network engineer. And then eventually I'm in my current role as a senior security technical specialist. And what I would say is my interviews were really successful because I was able to talk about the certifications that I was getting. And one of the added benefits of certifications was I was able to test out a lot of college credits because I didn't have my degree at the time. So there I was, 29 going on 30, no degree. And through certifications, I was able to get my associates in cloud and virtualization, and then eventually my bachelor's degree with the SANS Institute. So I'm a big believer in what security certifications represent. I just think that you want to keep in mind that that SOC analyst role isn't the only way to get to your end goal, which would be a career in cybersecurity. So if you're a career changer and you're just thinking about getting into this, really lean on your soft skills and your networking skills as you start crafting your way in. Advertise your skills on LinkedIn, do some market research in your local area, attend some meetup events in your city, and see what industries have security teams, which ones are growing, and then try to reach out to some of the members of those just to figure out the day-to-day and what the culture like, because not every organization is the same. Cool. So in summary, certifications are a great starting point, but gaining hands-on experience and demonstrating your passion for cybersecurity, those are equally important. So keep an open mind, leverage your existing IT skills, and network with professionals in the field. Question 2, the cloud security roadmap. So our second question comes from, again, our security career advice from user ImportCount6446, and they ask, I'm starting my journey into cloud security and could really use some guidance on building a clear roadmap. Now with all the platforms, AWS, Azure, tools, IAM, firewalls, and best practices floating around, it's a bit overwhelming to figure out where to begin. Well, man, that is a great question. Oh, there's a little bit of follow-up here. What's the best learning path for someone starting from scratch? Any certs, hands-on experience, or resources you'd recommend to really grasp the fundamentals and grow from there? So as somebody who went into the cloud and with Azure networking, I completely relate to you and understand where you're coming from when it comes to thinking about how big the world is or the cloud is. And it can be a little bit overwhelming because, it's not only everything on-prem, it's now even more remote It's got even more abstraction. So let's break it down. The major providers are where I would start would probably be either AWS or Azure. They both offer excellent learning paths and certifications. And my personal experience to Azure was I got my associates, my solutions architect associate certification, and I leveraged that in my interviews for the contracted position. So I thought that was really, really beneficial. And I think the two big certifications to keep in mind would be that AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate and the Microsoft Certified Azure Fundamentals, known as the AZ900. Those provide you with a solid understanding of those cloud concepts and at least gets you back on the same terminology with people as you're talking about the cloud. As for hands-on projects, I have a couple that I'd like to recommend. One being building your own environment and utilizing all of the free resources that you possibly can. I'm going to talk about Azure because that's where I ran my own personal lab and it's the one I know a little bit more about. But you get a $200 credit for building anything. And there's also a ton of free resources that don't charge you. But the only restriction there is you have to deploy them in different regions. So one of the fun things that you could do would be deploying resources in a VNet, maybe a web server, download Docker, bring out a container, and then put a web server on it. Maybe put a load balancer in front of it so that way you can talk about keeping high availability and you can see switching between one thing to another. And then depending on the container that you deploy, you could do something like a DVWA and then start doing some actual malicious hacks. And how would you protect it? What are the logs that are generated in the cloud? Analyzing some of those things and utilizing all of the free that you possibly can. Okay. The next thing I would do would be document everything. Tutorials get outdated very, very quickly in this space. So just because you think that you're not doing something extremely high level in the cloud, I think the bar for becoming an expert in something is generally who's done it the most recent and who has the best documentation or index of information. So just keep that in mind. Be very, very proud of what you do. And any one of those things can turn into a blog article that can once again demonstrate that passion. Use something like Draw.io so that way you can actually draw out the network. That could be very beneficial. And then the other alternatives and ancillary things would be doing Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, and learning about some penetration testing on containers, because that's a pretty practical exercise that can help build your skills. So there's a lot of resources there. The documents I would go to, make sure that you're trying to go as many of the vendor certifications or the vendor documents as you possibly can. Microsoft Learn is a really, really good thing. I think it's a really robust document platform. And sometimes I feel like even in my own role, I spend tons of times just reading through our own documentation. But the Learn platform itself even has some interactive learning paths that I think are really good. So be sure to check out some people's courses on YouTube as well. For AWS, I can't recommend enough Neil K. Davis's digital cloud training. That was really helpful to me. I also used IT Pro TV a lot. They're known as ACI Learning now, but they were really helpful. That's a paid platform. But lots of resources out there. And just because you don't listen to the information one time and immediately digest it, doesn't mean that you're not going to get it. I think especially learning some of these cloud concepts, depending on what your background is, it's really good to get information from multiple different sources. So that way you never know which one is going to put those words in the right order that's going to click and give you that aha moment. Cool. So the other things to keep in mind in this space is start utilizing some of those tools like Copilot, summarize some articles. That's just a fun project. Summarize some training and how-to documents. A lot of the way that the structure for white pages through AWS or the Learn documents is most common deployments, and the FAQs tend to have the most commonly asked questions, which are the common pitfalls that customers tend to face. So I think that's the low-hanging fruit. Just make sure that you start changing your algorithms too. Start shaping what you see on YouTube, what you see on X and TikTok. Try to surround yourself with some technical and professional development tips. That way you can just passively get better as you're scrolling through your phone. Some cybersecurity communities are really, really big, especially in the cloud space. So CISA is a local meetup or conference that could be in your area. Just check on Meetup and type in cybersecurity, And what's really cool is sometimes there's even industries that'll host events. For instance, my local town of Charlotte, Allstate's pretty involved in the tech space here, and they'll host things like capture the flag activities. And that can also accelerate you in your career path, because they'll have people who speak on hybrid deployments or total cloud deployments. And whenever you can talk to somebody, get a mentor, I think those can speed things along as well. All right, I didn't want to spend too much time on this. This is my first episode of doing the cyber journey. So if you got any benefit from it, I'd love to hear from you. I had some fun making this video. So if you found it helpful, please subscribe, comment. And if there's any questions that you wanted me to cover, I'll take them from YouTube first. But other than that, I'll keep scrolling through Reddit and asking some of the students that I teach as well. Thank you so much for watching. And once again, this is the Cyber Journey. Have a good one.